Chosen one, this message did not reach you by chance. God led you here for a reason. Your journey has something that caught heaven's attention. You didn't just survive life, you submitted to the process. You didn't just persevere, you kept growing. You didn't just weep, you cried out to God. And now, the realm of the miraculous is opening to you. You are not only favored, you are marked. You are not only lucky, you are aligned. Before going any further, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because this message is not just a video, it is a divine confirmation. If your spirit feels in harmony with this message, write 77 in the comments right now. This number is more than a sign, more than motivation, it is a prophetic blueprint. This is not marketing, it is heaven, and you did not find it by chance. God led you here intentionally, at the precise moment you needed to hear this. To all those who have contributed, a huge thank you. May God bless you 100-fold. Your faithfulness is seen not only by me, but by heaven. Thank you for supporting this prophetic work. Let's get into the heart of the matter. Chapter 1. You were broken in silence, but heaven took notes. They didn't see the nights your pillow was soaked with tears. They weren't there when your heart broke in silence, when your strength failed you behind closed doors and your soul pleaded for a way out. But you stayed. No one documented the intimate suffering that should have broken you. The crushing didn't happen in public, it happened in places where no one applauded, where no one noticed, and where no one cared. But make no mistake, just because they didn't see it doesn't mean heaven didn't record it. You were never invisible to God. In fact, it was in your most intimate moments that heaven was closest. Every breakdown, every cry into the void, every time you whispered, "God, I trust you," with a trembling voice, was inscribed in the eternal archives of your reward. You didn't just suffer, you submitted. You didn't just endure, you evolved. You let the pain transform you instead of consuming you. And that is why you attract miracles today. Because you didn't ask for glory, you asked for strength. You didn't chase the blessing, you pursued obedience, and when you are like this, miracles don't just visit you, they remain, they surround you, they track you down, because God never wastes a wound and He certainly never ignores one offered in worship. You were crushed in silence, but that is precisely what made it so sacred. You didn't make your pain a platform, you made it an altar, and now the incense of your sacrifice rises before the throne. Angels are working for you, not by noise, but by purity, not by performance, but by attitude. You were bowed down, not by defeat, but by reverence, and now heaven responds to this prostration with blessings. This is not pity, it is a prophetic mission. You were not buried, you were planted, and now the miracle is not that you survived, the miracle is that you stayed rooted, even when the earth was soaked with sorrow. You kept believing, you kept showing up, you kept lifting your hands when everything in you wanted to collapse. And because you did, something is pouring into your life that others will not be able to explain. They will call it chance, they will say it is luck, but you will know. The truth is, you paid for it in secret, you cried behind the scenes, and now you are crowned publicly because heaven rewards what men ignore. You stayed when it would have been easier to leave, you praised when giving up would have been justified. And for that, the weight of glory rests on your name. You didn't climb the ladder by the sole force of your will, you shed your blood to get there, and that blood testifies to your goodness. It cries out like Abel, attesting that your offering has been accepted. This is not only the fruit of divine favor, it is the fruit of faithfulness. God does not bless your exploits, He rewards the hidden moments that would never have gone viral, but which touched His heart. And for that, miracles are now attracted to you, not because you posted photos, nor because you shone, but because you endured in silence, with sacredness and relentlessly. The oil you carry today comes from olives crushed until they were invisible, but God recognized you, and now the reward is undeniable. You could have done like everyone else, blend into the crowd, take shortcuts, cling to survival instead of surrendering, sell your light to be approved and fade away. Your demands were a way to conform to a space that was not made for your spirit, but you didn't do it. When poison was in fashion, you chose purity. When gossip was common currency, you remained silent. When retaliation was expected, you chose restraint. While others manipulated to access important positions, you let God guide you, and this purity made you spiritually powerful, made you magnetic for miracles. You did not seek the image, you sought integrity. You refused deals that made you uncomfortable. You deleted messages before they opened the door to destruction. You declined invitations with hidden conditions. You silenced your flesh when it begged you to be petty, to fight back, to play dirty, not out of weakness, but out of holiness. You chose clean hands and a pure heart, and that choice prepared you for encounters that others cannot buy. Your purity was your passport to divine abundance. The world called it a loss, but heaven called it making room, because every time you said no to what was not aligned, you said yes to what was ordained. You weren't just protecting your name, you were protecting your essence, and essence only flows in vessels that refuse to. You were contaminated while others chased podiums. You built altars while they performed, you prayed while they sought applause, you sought the presence, and that presence follows you now with miracles. God does not anoint performance, He anoints purity, and that is why you see doors opening that no one could force, opportunities flowing to you that are not even written, blessings arriving that make no logical sense. It is because of what you did not touch, what you did not consider, what you walked away from when your flesh cried yes but your spirit whispered no. You sowed with discipline, and now you reap the fruit of your destiny. They said you were too sensitive, too strict, too spiritual, but God says you are set apart. Your purity has become a divine signature, a fragrance in the heavens that alerts the angels. You are ready for your mission. You did not purify yourself to attract attention, you purified yourself to be in harmony, and this harmony now attracts the miraculous with precision. You don't have to fight for what has already been assigned to you. Your spirit is a signal, and heaven responds, while others were thinking. You were weak, you were actually being instrumentalized, because purity is not passive, it is a force. It is not weakness, it is a strategy. You chose peace when the world sowed chaos. You chose forgiveness when your pride claimed vengeance. You stayed pure when mud was thrown in your direction. And now you enter places where your enemies cannot follow you, not because you are better, but because you are pure. God cannot breathe the sacred into what is defiled. And the most incredible thing is that you did not purify yourself for the reward, but out of respect. You did it because your spirit knew there was a call too heavy to carry with dirty hands. And now, those hands are filled with evidence, filled with grace, filled with fruit. You don't need validation, you have been confirmed spiritually. Miracles are not the result of chance, they are the natural response to a life that chose purity when poison was more widespread. You are the chosen one. The reason you encounter miracles now is not that you gave out of abundance, but that you gave out of lack. You didn't wait for your cup to overflow to pour, you poured while your hands were shaking. You sowed while your heart was broken, you gave while your flesh cried out to you to stop, to preserve yourself, to protect yourself. But your spirit wouldn't let you hold back, even in pain. You remained generous, even in scarcity, you remained sacrificial, and heaven kept every receipt of your gifts, even when you couldn't afford it. Not out of recklessness, but out of righteousness. You sowed time, money, energy, wisdom, prayers, your presence, not out of ostentation, but because you couldn't stand to see others sink when you still had the strength to lift them up. You didn't just offer material goods, you gave emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And often, you gave what you needed most. You encouraged others when you were depressed, you were there for them when you were collapsing internally, and yet you remained faithful. They may have forgotten how you were there, but God has not forgotten. Those you blessed may be gone, but heaven has kept track of your sowing. God saw what you paid to smile despite the pain. He saw what you paid to keep giving when no one reciprocated. This level of obedience is not invisible in the kingdom, it is evidence, spiritual equity. You were giving to the kingdom, while others were only interested in material gain. And now the floodgates of heaven are opening, not because you demanded it, but because your offering created the necessary space. A special reward is reserved for those who sow in pain, for those who give in times of famine, for those who water others while their own roots are withered. And you, chosen one, you have done it countless times. You sowed with trembling hands and a face bathed in tears. You kept your heart open in times when it would have been safer to close it. You planted in fields where you saw no immediate harvest. And now, the harvest is coming with interest. You don't need to chase it, you don't need to beg. What is about to flood your life is not a random blessing, it is a response. Every moment of quiet generosity was a down payment on the divine reward. Every nightly prayer for the success of another was a seed sown for yours. Every time you loved when it would have been easier to withdraw, you activated a law much more powerful than logic, the law of supernatural return. God has kept the evidence, the kind you forgot, the kind you never told anyone about. Those who broke you a little more each time you obeyed, even though it was painful. You never did it for the applause, but heaven is about to reward you. Miracles are not magic, they are divine mathematics. And when you give as you have given, when you sow as you have sown, when you love as you have loved, there is only one possible equation: abundance. So get ready. You are not rewarded for what you do now, you are compensated for what you have already given, for what you gave when no one was watching, for what you gave without ever asking for anything in return. The rain is coming because the drought did not dry up your generosity. And that is why this blessing will not be a simple shower, but a true divine outpouring. God is not just paying you back, He is blessing you for the future, chosen one. What awaits you now is not the reward for looking good, it is the reward for having done good in secret. You didn't follow God because it made sense in theory, you followed Him even when it made you look ridiculous. While others looked after their image, you cultivated your attitude. While they chased followers, you chased instructions. You chose obedience over appearances, and now miracles follow you, not because of your image, but because of your intimacy. They ignore the price of your silence, they don't see the fight you fought to stay invisible, even though you had all the qualities to be seen, the talent, the voice, the idea. But you let chance decide the right time. You didn't seize opportunities. If God didn't give you the green light, you didn't accept the invitation. If the atmosphere did not seem favorable to you, you said no to what many would have done anything to accept. And heaven recorded every one of those decisions. You chose the mission over recognition, and now, the focus is on your mission. You did not take the widest path, you followed the one God traced for you. Sometimes in the dark, sometimes alone, sometimes with a trembling step, but always in harmony. You obeyed without proof, you acted by faith, not by confirmation. And while others applauded themselves, you laid your crown at His feet. You chose the difficult yes over the easy no, and this obedience is the oil that will make the fire flow into your life. Obedience does not follow fashion, it does not fill rooms. It won't always make you viral, but it will make you irresistible in the eyes of heaven. And now, heaven responds to every act of quiet loyalty, to every time you turned the other cheek, to every time you deleted a post instead of exposing someone, to every time you kept silent instead of winning an argument, to every time you chose the mission over appearance. There were moments when you could have manipulated the outcome, when you could have created that breakthrough, but you didn't. You waited, and in that waiting you were strengthened, in that waiting you were prepared. For when you act by appearance, you must constantly perform, but when you act by obedience, heaven acts for you. You are about to see what happens when miracles pursue the obedient, not the loudest, nor the flashiest, nor the most famous, but the most submitted. God is about to reward the attitude, not the platform, and that is why this blessing is about to be so different. You didn't seek it, you submitted for it. You didn't maneuver it, you aligned for it. You didn't buy it with your influence, you birthed it through surrender. They applauded what looked good, but heaven applauds for what was right. The truth is, obedience isn't always glorious. It will cost you opportunities, delay applause, and test your patience, but it will never be in vain. You are about to reap the fruits of your past actions. Yes, you are about to walk through doors that only open to those who chose God over gimmicks. Your life is about to prove that favor smiles on the faithful, not the famous. This miracle bears your name, not because you earned it publicly, but because you obeyed in secret. They thought you were lost, that you had disappeared, that your silence was weakness and your isolation a punishment. But what they didn't understand is that God didn't banish you, He hid you. He didn't forget you, He was shaping you. You weren't at the bottom of the pit, you were in the middle of a transformation. What looked like a desert to men was actually a cradle for heaven. You weren't buried, you were being born. Silence wasn't a punishment, it was protection. Solitude wasn't rejection, it was preparation. God silenced the noise so you could finally hear His whisper. He set you apart, not to bring you down, but to restore you, for you are the chosen one. What He places on your life requires a purity, a clarity, and a strength that can only be forged in solitude. Some things cannot be learned in a crowd. Some burdens are only revealed in the wilderness. Yes, you cried in that desert, you questioned everything. You looked around and saw others rising while you stayed there in suspense. But suspense is not denial, it is development. While they were seen, you were being fashioned. And now the miracle isn't just that you step forward, but that you step forward differently, stronger, purer, clearer, without a thirst for validation, but anchored in truth. This is what the womb of the desert did for you. You learned to walk without applause, you learned to trust without proof, you learned to breathe in the absence of affirmation. You became familiar with the celestial rhythm, and you are comfortable in silence. And now this silence gives birth to a miraculous sound, a sound that changes everything when you speak, a sound that carries authority. You were hidden, not to be punished, but to be consecrated. It is time to emerge. The world celebrates speed, but heaven celebrates submission, and you, the chosen one, you submitted. You didn't rush things. You didn't escape the chrysalis. You let the pressure shape you, the fire purify you, the stripping humble you, the silence sanctify you. And because you did, the miracle that is coming is not just for you, it happens through you. You are not leaving empty-handed, you are leaving with something eternal. The desert is a sacred space, the place where names change, where burdens are lifted, where power is transmitted. And while others avoided it, you endured it. That is why you carry what they cannot counterfeit. You didn't read about this anointing, you lived what was necessary to receive it. Your scars have become signatures, marks that prove you have been with God and He has been with you. And now, the very ones who thought you were finished are about to witness your return. But it's not a return, it's a coronation. You weren't waiting to be seen, you were waiting to be called, and the call has arrived. The incubation period is over, the desert has accomplished its work, you are no longer in the desert. You are hidden in the harvest, and everything you learned in that womb is about to echo in every miracle to come. There are trials that come with trophies, and then there are those that come with tears. Yours were not the kind that earned certificates or ovations, they were the kind that demanded all your strength just to breathe. You received no applause, no recognition, but heaven was watching you. You passed tests that would have destroyed someone else. You passed tests that no one even knew you were taking. You didn't cheat to avoid the pain, you didn't take shortcuts, you didn't compromise when it was easy, you didn't give in under pressure. You stayed, you held on, you submitted again and again, not because it was easy, but because your spirit refused to fail the call. And now, God is not only about to justify you, but He is about to reward you fully. Resounding miracles are happening because of your silent perseverance. No one saw you choose integrity when dishonesty would have been faster. No one saw you keep quiet when your reputation was at stake. No one saw you walk away from people, places, and habits that felt like home but were stunted your growth. Yet you kept moving forward, not because it was logical, nor because it was fair, but because you trusted the voice of God over the noise of logic. This is the kind of obedience that rewrites destinies. If you are about to receive what seems absurd, it's because you passed insane tests, the kind that left you wondering if God even noticed, the kind where the only affirmation came from within. But now, heaven speaks loud and clear, you are ready, ready to receive grace, ready to flourish, ready to move forward without needing the permission of men. You never needed the crowd, you just needed God. And God saw every decision that cost you comfort. He saw you say yes while your heart was still bleeding from the last test. He saw you forgive while the wound was still fresh. He saw you show up in places where you weren't understood, simply because He asked you to. He saw you keep quiet while everything in you screamed to fight back. And now, the divine archives have been consulted and your season of reward has been approved. This miraculous season was not earned by perfection, but by perseverance. You weren't always strong, but you always surrendered. You weren't always certain, but you always sought, and that counts more than you think, because God does not only bless strength, He blesses submission. He blesses those who remain faithful even when everything around them screams failure. You didn't need proof to stay loyal, no need for results to keep sowing, no need for a sign to keep moving. And because you stayed faithful in the fog, the path is about to clear quickly, grace is about to pour out like you've never seen before, not because of your performance, but because of your perseverance. And this kind of perseverance speaks louder in heaven than any sermon. The miracle is here. It's not just about what you're stepping into, but also what you've overcome to get there. You're not just entering a new season, you're entering the celestial reward system in action. The trials you went through in silence are about to manifest with power. What they considered a failure was actually your final exam, which you passed. The reward is about to reveal itself in an undeniable, irresistible, and supernatural way. You are not broken to be thrown away, but to be rebuilt, reshaped, readjusted, refined. Your suffering was not a punishment, but a prophetic preparation. And no matter the pain felt, no matter how many pieces of yourself broke, it wasn't to shame you, but to prepare you for glory. For what is coming now into your life could not be carried by someone inexperienced. It had to be placed in someone who had already learned to know the cracks and to persevere. God does not pour His power on what looks strong, He pours it on what has been surrendered. And you, chosen one, You surrendered when you could have given up. You said, "Use me," when everything in you was. You cried, "Help," and let the pain do its work. You let the crushing bring out something sacred from within you. You didn't run from the breaking, you accepted it. You cried bitter tears and invited God into them. And that is why the oil you carry now is so powerful. He had to empty you of all substance, not to humble you, but to contain more of His presence. The blessing overwhelming you now doesn't come from your perfection, but from your flexibility. You let God mold you without breaking you. And even when life cracked, your confidence, your clarity, your abilities, you didn't close up, you didn't harden. You stayed soft, you stayed submitted. That is how you got here. There were periods when everything stable was snatched from your hands. People left, opportunities vanished, the ground shook beneath your feet, and you wondered if God had forgotten you, or worse, rejected you. But no. He was preparing the ground for more power, for a deeper revelation, for something heavier than simple superficial blessings. You were never being punished, you were being prepared to carry the glory. Miracles do not rest on the surface, they rest on depth, and you have been taken deep. Dark places, silent places where you learned to hear God in whispers, not in shouts, where you found your foundations, not in applause, but in harmony. You were broken until only surrender remained, and it was in that surrender that heaven smiled and said, "Now they are ready." You were never too fragile, you were too full of expectations, too full of your own strength, too full of what you thought life should be. So God emptied you, not to leave you empty, but to fill you with something eternal. What is coming now will not break you, it will fit you, for you have been shaped by fire and now you are forged for the miraculous. It is not an accident, it is a reward. The cracks in your story are the places where glory shines through. That is why people feel the presence of God when you speak. That is why rooms transform when you walk in, not because you avoided pain, but because you let it purify you. You were broken to become a carrier, not of shame, but of supernatural strength. And now that strength is about to manifest, not in your words, but in what surrounds you, in the miracles that accompany your steps, in the breakthroughs that respond to your actions. Your presence, because the suffering was not your end, but your preparation. You did not die in that suffering. You were born again, born in fire, born in grace, born into a divine reality that only the broken can carry. And that is why the blessing coming to you now does not look like survival, but like a resurrection, chosen one. You had every reason to flee this process, every reason to say it was too much, to cry out to heaven, to curse this earth where nothing seemed to grow. You knew the tears, the trauma, the evidence of betrayal, the losses that no one helped you mourn, the delays that made you suffer, the moments where silence was synonymous with abandonment. And yet, you did not curse this process, you blessed it. You did not understand it, but you respected it, and that veneration became your weapon. Instead of cursing the fire, you learned to worship in it. Instead of questioning the trial, you submitted to the blade, you whispered yes through your clenched teeth and you surrendered, even when your heart did not consent. Not because you were seeking to be holy, but because deep down, you knew God was acting in a deeper way. Your eyes could see that you knew the stripping away was not malice, but a strategy. You knew the silence was not rejection, but refinement. And now this attitude is bearing fruit. You are not only rewarded for your perseverance, you are justified for your reverence. You did not idolize the result, you honored the journey. You did not demand explanations, you trusted God despite everything. And this level of obedience is what heaven rewards with a miraculous momentum. It is what attracts a favor that you do not need to display, for it speaks louder than your voice. You watched your words in a time that wanted to embitter you. You chose to be quiet when you felt like letting everything go. You protected your integrity when it would have been easier to prove your suffering. You stayed pure, you stayed silent, not out of fear, but out of faith. And that silence spoke volumes in the spiritual world. Self-control, restraint, humility, that was the test, and you passed it without needing a platform to shout it. Every time you chose to bless this period instead of cursing it, you opened a door, a spiritual portal. It aligned you with the promise, for God cannot grant a breakthrough where bitterness reigns, nor glory where murmurs rise. But you chose gratitude, even in the trial. You praised God when all seemed lost. And now that sound you made when everything in you wanted to fade out resonates within you like open doors, supernatural appointments, and divine surprises. You do not reap because you are perfect, you reap because you refuse to give up. You reap because you offered your silence to God instead of slander. You reap because you remained upright in the heart of a tumultuous battle. This is what makes you formidable. This is what sets you apart. You did not simply undergo the trial, you honored it, and that honor prepared you for abundance. This is why things are turning in your favor. This is why opportunities are coming to you. This is why your influence is growing. This is why favor finds you even where you never applied. Because you refused to curse what was shaping you, you refused to reject what was remodeling you, you refused to curse the process. And now the process is producing miracles, not only around you, but through you. Because you did not only survive this period, you sanctified it. Let them murmur, let them speculate, let them call it coincidence, chance, or luck. But you and heaven know the truth. It is not luck, it is an inheritance. It is not random, it is a reward. It is not just a period of favor, it is a system of alignment falling into place after years of faithful obedience. The sudden blessings, the unexpected opportunities, the open doors you did not knock on, they did not appear out of nowhere, they manifested through your surrender. You did not wake up by chance and find favor, you aligned yourself with it, you stepped into it. When you chose integrity over impulse, you attracted it. When you chose purpose over popularity, you magnetized it. When you continued to walk in the dark without evidence, only with promises, it is not luck, it is alignment. It is the logic of heaven finally hitting the natural world, breaking through as undeniable proof. People will say it happened overnight, but what they didn't see were the nights you cried, the mornings you got up regardless, the years you stayed anchored while everyone else fled. What they don't know is that this moment has already been paid for by faith, by tears, by silence, by sacrifices that no one will ever fully understand. And now, the reward isn't just arriving, it is accumulating. Heaven always pays with interest. You are not lucky, you are committed. You don't stumble upon blessings, you walk in a covenant. That is why everything is coming together. That is why resources are flowing. That is why those who ignored you before are suddenly drawn to your presence. Because heaven has changed the game, not based on your popularity, but based on your attitude, the attitude of a submitted soul that said, Lord, your will be done, not mine. Your life has become a signal. You carry the frequency of favor, not because you sought it, but because you aligned your life with the one who sends it. Every decision to stay faithful when you could have faked it, every choice to stay humble when you could have fought back, every moment of calm when the world demanded your reaction, it was a divine alignment. And alignment always attracts the miraculous. Let the world try to understand, let it try to copy your results, but what it cannot replicate is your surrender. It wants the fruit, but it doesn't want the root. It wants the harvest, but not the obedience that sowed it. God knows, God remembers, God rewards. That is why your life is changing in inexplicable ways. You created none of this, God released it. Now that you are in harmony, the momentum is irresistible. Favor is no longer just a passing phase, it is becoming your norm. Breakthroughs are no longer occasional, they are becoming your new environment. For you did not chase opportunities, you became the opportunity. You did not seek validation, you were already recognized by the heavenly courts. So when they tell you that you are lucky, smile, but know deep inside that it was never a matter of luck. It is the manifestation of spiritual law. You are in divine harmony, and when harmony reaches the earth, everything must react. People, resources, platforms, prophecies. You are not a lucky chosen one. You are living what God always promised, but could only reveal when you were ready. What is happening in your life now is not a bug, it's not a fluke, it's not hype. It is heaven's reward, and no system, no scheme, no satanic interference can reverse it. You are not receiving this because someone felt sorry for you, you are receiving it because heaven made a decision. You paid the price, now, receive the promise. This is divine justice in action, it is spiritual law completing its cycle. What was delayed is being delivered, what was blocked is being released, and this time, it is irreversible. You did not ask for a handout, you did not beg for the spotlight, you were not chasing miracles, you were chasing God. And that is why miracles are chasing you now, not one, not two, but a flood of strategic and supernatural miracles, stamped with your name. For this is not karma, it is the kingdom, and in the kingdom, the currency is faithfulness, the price is obedience. And you paid the high price. When others played, you prayed. When others acted out, you persevered. You kept your hands clean and your heart aligned. You refused to compromise for glory, you refused to take shortcuts. You chose the long way, the hard way, the hidden way. And now that heaven has calculated every invisible sacrifice, every tear, every moment of fasting, every secret, yes, you whispered through the heartbreak, your compensation is being processed by divine decree. And here is the part: understand that this blessing is not a one-time event, nor a fleeting victory. It is a shift, a displacement of favor, a permanent implantation of a supernatural flow that rests on your life like a crown. For this is not a breakthrough to be maintained by your efforts, but a kingdom you have entered through holiness. You didn't fake it to get there. You were forged, refined, tested, and now you are in position. They will try to explain it, they will try to minimize it, but they cannot cancel it. What God has set in motion cannot be stopped by opinions, rumors, envy, or even by your old versions of yourself. This is the power of irreversible favor. Once heaven has approved it, hell cannot annul it. And what you are about to see is justification in motion. The same places where you were mocked, you will be honored. The same mouths that discredited you will be silenced by the evidence. It is heaven's way of saying, I saw it all, now watch what I do. It is more than a miracle, it is a restoration. It is the reimbursement of time, energy, and emotions. It is beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, and strength for weariness. Here is the grace of God manifested in the physical world. This is the harvest, and not an ordinary harvest. It is an abundant reward, intense and overflowing, because you didn't give him half, you gave him everything. And now, he is giving it back to you in a way no man could have orchestrated. A compensation that brings peace, not pressure. A compensation that makes you weep, not from pain, but from pure awe, because deep down, you knew he would show up. You just didn't know it would take this form, but it has. It looks like restoration, provision, power, reward, and it is all yours, not by luck, but because you are chosen and you stayed faithful until the deliverance. Breathe, chosen one, let your soul exhale. You have carried so many burdens for so long, you walked with questions you never voiced, endured battles you never named, and kept the faith when everything seemed to fall apart around you. But now, heaven responds, not with noise, but with movement, a divine and silent movement that shifts atmospheres and confirms what your spirit always knew: your efforts were never in vain. You did not imagine this promise, you did not exaggerate the pain, you did not dream up the fire. Every step of your journey was real, and this moment is just as real, the weight lifting from your shoulders, the clarity starting to settle in your heart, that silent yes rising from within. All of this is part of the shift, because this is not just the end of a season, but the beginning of a new realm. A realm where miracles are no longer rare, but regular. A realm where peace is your natural state. A realm where you no longer have to fight for what already belongs to you. Let this be the confirmation that you did not miss it, that you did not ruin anything, that you were never forgotten. You were in the making, and now, all that making is turning into fulfillment. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, smile softly. The atmosphere has changed. You are not going back to your usual life. You are entering the land of miracles, and you belong here, not by luck, but by inheritance. You are heaven's investment, and God is coming through for you right now. Welcome to your reward. You are no longer chasing it, it has found you.